sitting in my goat house because it's rather breezy outside, and I'm being being the centre of interest for my goats, who are just a little bit too used to being fussed and getting lots of attention, more like pets than working animals. But it's New Year's Eve 2018, so what I thought I'd do is have a look back at the year when this little fella was born. Unfortunately, Pinky, his mum, passed away the day after he arrived, so we raised him by hand, and he was born in the middle of one of the coldest winters we've had for quite some years. But then we went from a cold winter into a hot, dry summer, so the bees did well, and some of the crops, the root crops, and potatoes in particular, didn't do too well. So where sometimes we get an up, we also get a down as well. Hey, come on you. Stop eating my jacket. So what I thought we'd do was have a quick look at some of the highlights throughout the year. So welcome to Self-Sufficient in Suburbia for 2018. And he's eating my jacket. Here is pregnant as well, and we reckon she'll be due in about 2 weeks' time. Here's Daddy. There's a good girl. There we go. Come on, almost there. There's a good girl. There's a clever girl. There you go. Come on. Let's get his face cleaned. There we go. Look at that. Come on. Come on. There we go. This black and white one seems quite lively.
They're decent sizes, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, if she has any more, then that's likely to be a runt. I wouldn't have thought she is, but we'll see. Right, I need to clean my hands. Yep, there he goes, on his feet. Sorry, there she goes, on her feet. And the other one, I think, is trying to follow. But not at the moment. We have one milking goat. It's a golden Guernsey and she's called Pinky. Now, for the past 4 years, every time she's had a pregnancy, it's gone wrong in some way. And yesterday, we are delighted to say that she had a baby. We've got here and found this little fella, and everything seemed okay, and we were thinking, hooray, for the first time we've had a natural birth from Pinky that's not required a vet. And I checked on her around midnight and she was fine and the baby was fine, and then this morning when we got here, Pinky was very seriously ill, and we've had the vet out to have a look at her, and she's had a couple of injections, but she is still very poorly and we're not sure she's going to pull through. So as an emergency measure, we have drawn off as much milk as we can from her to ensure that the baby here has his mother's milk for the first few days, and that way he's be able to use her antibodies to build up a resistance to illness. But I have to say, it's not looking good for Pinky. We managed to roll her onto a makeshift stretcher, which is this gate, and move her here to one of the goat shelters where she is resting at the moment, and that's her baby in the corner there. But as I say, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm very worried and I'm not sure she's going to be able to pull through. Well, it's absolutely freezing here on the allotment, and it's the beast from the east which is still here with us, and we've had a load of snow overnight as well to add to what we had yesterday, and we're now sort of trying to cope with this. Hardly anybody's gone to work today because the roads all seem to be blocked up, but I've got to take the Land Rover to the Freeman Hospital this afternoon to go and visit Richard. As you can see, David is feeding little Perky there, who is growing ever bigger, but also his coat is getting redder like his mum. The ducks are loving the snow, if the goats aren't. Oh, hello you. Go, down you go. Chickens aren't too impressed by what's happening today. We were greeted by a particularly unpleasant sight this morning when we got to the allotment. Unfortunately, a fox had got into our duck run. Now, the 8 ducks in the run were okay because they'd managed to get onto the pond for safety, but the 5 hens that we had roosting in there, the fox killed 4 of them and just left them in the duck run with their heads chewed off. Particularly unpleasant. And unfortunately, these 4 hens were part of a batch that we got last year of chicks, and we'd raised them so that they'd start laying this year, and they were really good layers, and we'd been getting a lot of eggs from them. And sadly we've now lost them. We couldn't let them go to waste in their entirety though, so because the chickens had been killed rather than died from any illness, and because they're still quite young, we have brought them back and we've plucked and gutted them. And what's actually quite upsetting is probably too strong a word, but quite annoying is that we are finding eggs inside these hens, and also partially formed eggs, but in 3 of them there were whole eggs that they were ready to lay. This is the last of the birds, and I know that there's an egg in there because I can feel it, and that is it there. And let me just open this up. So sadly their egg laying careers were quite short. So we got 3 eggs out of them, and as you can also see here, these were eggs that were being formed up inside them as well. One of them actually had 4 of these egg yolks, all varying sizes, varying degrees of development. So as I say, we can't let these go to waste, so we have plucked and gutted them, and these will be used by us over the next few days. We're going to boil them up tonight and then strip the meat off, and tonight they'll go into a chicken curry, and well, not all into a chicken curry, some of it will be frozen, but we can't just allow a resource like that to be wasted by being thrown away. Well, the chickens being killed by the foxes wasn't obviously what we wanted, but we managed to salvage something from the loss by being able to rescue the chicken meat, and it has been cooked, and we've now made it into a chicken curry. We've just had a call from Christine at the allotments here to say that there's a bee swarm, and she said she saw it heading in the direction from our far side allotment to our other allotment. And so we've got here, and we've got some old unused beehives there, and they are all building up a swarm around them, and we suspect they might actually be moving into one of our empty hives. So we're just going to keep an eye on them for the time being, then work out how we can capture them. At the moment we're not sure whether we've got 1 swarm or 2. If it's 1 swarm, then it seems to be splitting up between 2 different sets of hives. If it's 2 swarms, it's just an amazing coincidence that they're swarmed at the same time and they're building up next door to each other on empty hives. Well, we think it is just the 1 swarm, and it has been moving into this hive at the end, which David has just slightly rearranged, which is one of life's or beekeeping unexpected turn of events, where we have to go through to a lot of effort to catch a swarm and then rehouse it in a hive, and this swarm has managed to cut out the middle section and just moved straight in. Pretty certain that the queen is in the hive because the bees are gradually going in through the entrance there, so they will follow the queen. It is Saturday the 30th of June 2018. We are here at Kells Lane Fair in Lowfell, and we have a jam stall selling our jams, and we have brought our quail with her now 11 babies. Sadly one of them died this morning, and we've also brought Perky as well. So Perky is here to help promote the stall and promote the community garden, and also for people to go ooh, ah, and coo over him. He's also doing a good job of eating the grass. So this is our stall, and as you can see, these are the jams that we've made recently, 1 or 2 from stock from last year, and is the quail. And we brought a bucket of chopped carrots for people to feed to Perky, but of course Perky then found the bucket and is already feasting on them. So still setting up at the moment, so we're not due to start for, I think it's about 45 minutes before we start, so as you can see, people are still putting up their gazebos. Well, the fair's been going for about 3 hours now. The camp's now on the table, so quite a bit sold. We've sold all the duck eggs, surprisingly nearly all the quail eggs as well. Quail chicks are being quite popular, certainly drawing people to the table. And Perky, who is over there, is being very popular with the guests as well.
Thank you.
He's been stuffing himself with carrots all day, so hence the reason why he's looking rather on the large side around his stomach. One more wafer thin piece of carrot and he'll explode. Well, that's it. We've now finished for the day and our stall is now packed up, ready to go home, and a reasonably successful day.
Maybe 5. Does the big one bite?
It can do, yeah.
No bite off.
Well, heading home now, and I think Perky is the one who's the most exhausted. All that eating. It is Thursday, the 5th of July 2018, and as you can see, I'm getting the bee kit on because we're going to do a check of the hives for honey. Hopefully we've got some honey that we can take off and sell at the market that we're going to on Saturday. So we have 2 days left to get ready for it. Now here on our main livestock allotment we have 6 hives. 4 of them are swarm hives, the swarms that formed just a few weeks ago. So they won't have any honey on them, and I'm not be checking them today. The 5th hive is actually a very small one, which we didn't expect to survive the winter, but miraculously it did, and it does seem to have been growing. But again, because it's a small hive, we're not going to be taking any honey off that one. We're just going to, at some point soon, we'll monitor it, we'll check it when we check the swarm hives, but that's not a job for today. Now we've got one hive next to me here, which is a good size hive, and it has a super on the top of it, ready to collect the honey. Now, I'm not expecting a great deal of honey in there because the super went on quite late, but we're going to check it anyway, because if there's anything, if the super is full, then we'll take that honey off. Well, the first thing I've noticed is that the frames at this end haven't been touched yet, but up to this one here, they've certainly drawn out the comb, which means that these ones here hopefully will have some honey on. Let's just check that. Oh boy. Oh, beautiful. Good amount of honey on there. That one is full. It hasn't been sealed, hasn't been capped on the other side, so they're obviously still working on that one. So with this hive, I'm going to leave it for a few weeks yet before we take off the honey, So we'll just let them fill that one up. So here on our far side allotment we have 3 hives. One of them is a swarm hive, so again we won't be opening that to check for honey, but we've got 2 strong hives here which we got originally last year that replaced the stock that we lost in previous years. And because they're strong hives, I'm quite hopeful, and I'm hoping I'm not tempting fate by saying this, but I'm hopeful that we'll get a honey crop on these ready to come off. Well, there was nothing in the top box that we put on, but just looking through here, it looks as though there's a lot of capped honey that we'll know for certain in a moment. Nice and relaxed, these bees. And as you can see, lovely honey, nicely capped. So what I'm going to do is just check the other end of this super, and again it's looking pretty much like it's all capped. Certainly all the frames seem to have been used. And again, yep, beautiful honey crop there. So this is to come off today. So all I've got to do now is take the bees out of this super into that spare one that was on top of it. It is Monday the 20th of August 2018. One of the allotments next to ours is run by a group of army veterans, and they regularly have barbecues there, and they often call round to see our animals and occasionally feed them bread rolls and so on. And a couple of weeks ago they said that they're having a barbecue today and the mayor is coming, and they invited me as well. So I said, oh, thank you very much, I shall be attending. But then I thought to myself, I can't just turn up with nothing. So I've decided to make a curry for them to all have as part of the lunch. Now this isn't just any old curry. It is a vegetable curry, and a lot of the ingredients that have gone into there have been grown by us locally, or we've swapped for them. Now that's all vegetables in there, and we've cheated with the curry sauce. That did come from the supermarket. And then next to it, in there is a pheasant, and it will also at some point soon be, we'll have some pigeon breasts added to cook it all up. And what we will be doing is having the veggie as the base, and if people want meat they will be able to add some curried pigeon and pheasant to it as well. But I've got really excited about using the outdoor stove, which worked really well last night. So we'll be cooking the meat here, but we'll be cooking the vegetable curry over on the stove on the allotment. So both pans are cooking away quite nicely. We gave the pheasant and pigeon curry a head start back home, and the vegetable curry is just simmering away, so a bit longer for the veggie curry. But I think we can take the pigeon and pheasant curry round to the guys who will be having lunch.
Yeah, more of the story. So they read them out again, and that's a good way of kind of raising money.
It is Saturday the 8th of September 2018. We spent all day yesterday preparing for it, but here we are at the Bow Show. Our competition entries are now in place, so these here are the 4 sweets section. So this is the 4 fruit leathers I made last night. That's our lemon curd, and over here we have our raspberry jam, and somewhere on here, yep, there we go, on the other jams, this one here is our strawberry, apple and blackcurrant jam. That's our jar of gooseberry chutney, and then moving on to the eggs, that's our 4 hen eggs and 1 individual egg. That's my blackberry flan, and next to it my game pie. 4 fruit scones and 4 cheese scones. 1 loaf of bread. And 1 chocolate ring cake in the men only section. And 4 apples. First time we've entered the horticultural section. The exhibition tent was closed at 9:30 and the judging is now taking place, so we won't get back in until about 12:30. The judging is now finished and the marquee has reopened, so we're inside finding out whether we've won any prizes. And I'm delighted to say that not only have we won first prize in the pie making section, we have also got a best exhibit in the produce section as well. In fact, the best exhibit. So, rather pleased with that. But we got second prize for raspberry jam. And the only other prize we've got is third place in the men's cake making competition. There you go. Using your mobile phone whilst driving a traction engine. Towards the end of the show, when I went to retrieve my exhibits and got my winning rosette, I discovered that winning the best exhibit in the produce section comes with a trophy as well. So a trophy that was actually donated to the show in 1963. Trouble is, I've got to give it back in a year's time. We have 4 freezers in our house here, and they are all packed full of stuff, and we're desperate for the space because we've got crops coming in, and it's pointless having all that food sitting in the freezer if it's not going to be used up. So yesterday I took out of the freezer some game, and we've got absolutely loads of game in the freezers, but this has now defrosted, so we've got in here a couple of pheasants, some pigeon breasts and a partridge, no pear trees. And what that's going to be used for is to make some game soup. So we've got the pheasant and the partridge in the pan, topped up with water. The redness is from the blood, which we simply tipped into the pan to make sure it wasn't wasted. And in this bowl we have the pigeon breast. They will be cooked in the soup, not beforehand, because this lot here are going to be boiled up, because that is the way to get the meat off the bones. The pan's now come up to the boil, so I've turned it down. I'm just going to let this simmer for about an hour and a half. Right, we left the carcasses to stand overnight in the liquid in which they were cooked, and we've now stripped the carcasses of the meat. That's far too much for what we're after, so we're only going to use about half of that for this soup, and the rest we will probably freeze, sadly, because I wanted to avoid doing that, but we'll freeze it for a few days and then use it in a curry, which we'll make probably at the end of this week. Now, we need the stock, and the basis of the stock is actually the liquid that we boiled up the birds in. And we also have, this is some venison stock in here that we made about 3 years ago and has been sitting in our freezer ever since. So this is going to go into the stock in the pan, and we're also going to add in 3 chopped potatoes. Now the potatoes were actually still in the ground as of 2 days ago, and so they've come up very recently, and the onions, 3 smallish to medium sized onions chopped, put that all in as well. And the final ingredient at this point now is this. It's actually just, we're going to put in a sort of a pudding spoonful of this. It's a fruit jelly, and the reason why is because I always like game to have a slightly fresh edge to it. So anyway, that lot goes into the pan, and then we'll bring it up to the boil. As you can see, it's now come up to the boil, so we're going to leave it to simmer for about half an hour to 40 minutes. Because we had way more meat than we expected from the 2 pheasants and the partridge, then we decided not to add in the pigeon meat, so that will go into the curry later this week as well. The soup has been simmering for about 40 minutes now, and I've tested the flavour, and I decided just to add a little bit of Marmite to it, just to give it a bit more of a kick, and we're now going to blend it, so time to use my secret weapon. Here goes. I don't really think putting the fruit jelly in made any difference at all, but it tastes fine anyway. So, oh, even though I've got a bit of a cold at the minute, then this is going to be quite filling and quite warming. It is Friday the 30th of November 2018. The pork has arrived, or half a pig, and we took delivery of it this afternoon. So it's all in a box. I reckon there's over 25 kilos of stuff in that box when I picked it up, and I'm about to open it now. Right, so there we go. Got to get this sorted. Well, notice the thick layer of fat on there. Now you don't get that with the sort of typical breeds that they use for mass-produced pork. So the fat contains a lot of the flavour, but also we'll be able to render that down to get the lard off it, and we'll use that in cooking as well. Well, most of this has been carved up into chops. Now, what we're going to do is bundle these up into 2s and then wrap them in cling film and then freeze them. That way it's a lot easier to deal with, because we can use the sort of smaller spaces that we got in the freezers to store them in. But there's 4 very big joints in here as well, and we're going to have to work out what to do with them. So these are all the chops. We've packaged them up into pairs. We'll keep one set out for dinner on Saturday, or Sunday rather, the rest will go in the freezer. I've got quite a few of these which will be going into the freezer for a few days at least, and then we're going to cure them and make bacon. So here we have one joint, and then we've got the bits that will be used to make bacon, the chops, all bacon bits, and then whizzing over here we've got a leg and two joints which we're going to boil up as ham joints. But it's all going to go into the freezer for the time being, other than the chops we'll have for dinner. It is Tuesday the 25th of December 2018, Christmas Day. We don't really do Christmas in our household. We don't do presents or Christmas cards, no Christmas trees or decorations, but we do the dinner. And we always make sure it is as self-sufficient as possible. So here's my dinner. The meat is from the pig that we got a couple of weeks ago, and there are parsnips, roast potatoes, beetroot. I think that's just about it. Oh, and sprouts. A few sprouts there as well. So, Christmas dinner, here we come. So that's it for 2018. As we go into 2019, we do actually have a number of plans. We want to get an outdoor oven built, and we want to get a compost toilet built. Oven and toilet will be quite some distance apart, thankfully. And we'll also be looking at getting this goat house sorted out so that we can have an inspection via environmental health, which will then hopefully allow us to sell our milk and cheese. So that's it for 2018. Join us in 2019, where all sorts of things will hopefully be happening.